A luxury Cadillac that randomly decides it wants to be a four-cylinder economy car while you're merging onto the highway. Or a diesel engine so catastrophic it spawned class action lawsuits, killed consumer trust for decades, and cost General Motors hundreds of millions of dollars. Welcome to the wild world of GM's most spectacular engine disasters, where innovation met hubris and left a trail of blown head gaskets, mystified owners, and mechanics pulling their hair out. Buckle up, because we're diving into 10 of the most bizarre, ambitious, and downright failed engines that rolled out of General Motors factories. The Oldsmobile Jetfire Turbo V8. In 1962, Oldsmobile pulled off something that should have made automotive history for all the right reasons. They created America's first turbocharged V8 in a production car. The Oldsmobile Jetfire packed a Garrett T5 turbocharger onto a 215 cubic inch aluminum V8, pumping out an impressive 215 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. 1 horsepower per cubic inch was revolutionary for the early 60s. But here's where the story takes a bizarre turn. To prevent the engine from destroying itself under boost, Oldsmobile engineers had to inject a special concoction called turbo rocket fluid into the intake system. This mysterious cocktail of distilled water, methanol, and corrosion inhibitor was stored in a reservoir that could be drained in as little as 224 miles. Without this fluid, the turbo system would automatically cut boost, leaving drivers wondering why their turbocharged sports cars suddenly felt powerless. The problems mounted quickly. Owners forgot to refill the reservoir. Some tried making their own mixture using tap water, which corroded the system, and the fluid would sometimes seep through valves overnight, causing hydrostatic lock that bent connecting rods when owners tried starting their cars. After selling fewer than 10,000 Jetfires over 2 model years, Oldsmobile pulled the plug. The kicker? In 1965, GM offered to remove the entire troublesome turbo system and replace it with a conventional carburetor setup, free of charge. Most owners jumped at the opportunity. The Cadillac V864, when computers couldn't keep up. Fast forward to 1981, and Cadillac thought they'd cracked the code on fuel efficiency. The V864 used computer-controlled solenoids to deactivate cylinders when you didn't need full power. Cruising down the highway, the engine would shut off 2 or 4 cylinders, running as a V6 or even a V4. Need to accelerate? All 8 cylinders would roar back to life. It promised up to 30% better fuel economy. Reality was far less impressive. Early 80s computer technology simply couldn't react fast enough to driving conditions. The engine would hunt between cylinder modes, creating jerky acceleration and delays that drove owners absolutely crazy. Imagine stomping on the gas pedal and waiting while your car's computer tried to figure out whether you needed 4, 6, or 8 cylinders. Cadillac owners, who'd paid premium prices for luxury and refinement, were furious. The solution? Most dealers simply deactivated the system entirely, permanently locking the engine in V8 mode. Cadillac issued 13 different software updates, but the damage was done. After just 1 model year, the V864 was scrapped. The irony? The concept now works brilliantly in modern engines, but in 1981, the technology simply wasn't ready. The Oldsmobile 350 diesel, GM's deadliest sin. If there's one engine that truly deserves the title of GM's biggest disaster, it's the Oldsmobile 350 diesel. This wasn't just a failed engine, it was a catastrophe that killed American diesel passenger cars for 3 decades, spawned massive lawsuits, and destroyed consumer trust in General Motors. During the fuel crisis of the late 70s, instead of engineering a proper diesel from scratch, GM took their gasoline 350 V8 and converted it to run on diesel fuel. This decision would prove catastrophic. Diesel engines operate under compression ratios up to 3 times higher than gasoline engines. The Oldsmobile diesel used the same head bolt pattern as the gasoline engine, with only 10 head bolts per cylinder head. That wasn't nearly enough. The head bolts would stretch, head gaskets would fail, and coolant would leak into combustion chambers, causing hydrostatic lock and catastrophic internal damage. Over 1 million customers bought these engines. Over 1 million customers lost trust in General Motors. The one-year wonder, Oldsmobile's 4.3-liter diesel V8. As if the 350 diesel wasn't bad enough, 1979 saw an even smaller disaster, the 4.3-liter diesel V8. This 260 cubic inch engine managed to produce a pathetic 90 horsepower and 160 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the slowest V8 engines ever put into production cars. Available only in the Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon and Supreme, the 4.3 diesel suffered all the same problems as its bigger brother: head gasket failures, water contamination issues, and general unreliability. The performance was so anemic it couldn't provide anything close to expected V8 acceleration. After just 1 year, Oldsmobile quietly killed it off, proof that making a bad engine smaller doesn't make it better. The Buick 215 V8. Brilliant but doomed. Not every failed GM engine was a complete disaster. The Buick 215 V8, introduced in 1961, was actually brilliant engineering that failed for frustrating reasons. At just 324 pounds, it was one of the lightest V8 engines ever mass-produced, yet delivered 155 to 200 horsepower from its all-aluminum construction. So what went wrong? The casting process had high rejection rates due to porosity problems causing oil leaks. Radiators would clog from coolant mixtures incompatible with aluminum, since most coolants were designed for iron engines. GM sold a special antifreeze for the 215, but most owners either didn't know about it or didn't buy it. The Pontiac Trophy 4. Half a V8 is worse than none. Imagine taking Pontiac's legendary 389 V8, cutting it in half, and creating a 4-cylinder engine. That's exactly what Pontiac did with the Trophy 4 for the 1961 to 1963 Tempest. With 195.5 cubic inches, this was one massive 4-cylinder. The logic was budget-driven. Pontiac had no inline 4 in their lineup and limited funds, so they simply chopped their 389 V8 in half. This allowed them to share over 120 components between engines. The Trophy 4 could produce up to 166 horsepower, impressive for a 4-cylinder of the era. But the size that made it powerful also made it a nightmare. At nearly 200 cubic inches, the Trophy 4 suffered from massive vibration problems. Pontiac tried everything: large, soft rubber motor mounts, the Tempest's unique rope drive system, extra bracing, special bracketing. The engine earned the nickname Old Hay Baler due to its rough-running nature. After 3 years, Pontiac abandoned it for a conventional inline 6. The Buick V6, the odd-fire oddball. The Buick V6, introduced in 1962, was created by chopping 2 cylinders off the 215 V8 and switching to cast iron. This created a 90-degree V6 with an odd-fire design, meaning cylinders didn't fire evenly. Firing impulses alternated between 90 and 150 degrees of crankshaft rotation, creating a characteristic rumble and rough driving experience. The vibration was so pronounced that Jeep added a heavier flywheel just to smooth things out. GM sold the tooling to Kaiser Jeep in 1967, only to buy it back in 1974 during the oil crisis. The odd-fire design wasn't fixed until 1977 when Buick introduced an even-fire crankshaft. Despite its rough beginnings, the Buick V6 evolved into the legendary Buick 3800, one of the most successful V6 engines in history. Over 25 million were produced before production ended in 2008. It took persistence and continuous improvement to turn this odd-fire oddball into a winner. The Cadillac V16, prestige at any cost. The Cadillac V16 wasn't an engineering failure, it was a commercial disaster. Introduced in January 1930, right after the stock market crash, this magnificent 452 cubic inch V16 produced 165 to 185 horsepower and represented the pinnacle of American luxury. In 1930, Cadillac sold 2,500 V16 powered cars. Then the Great Depression hit hard. Sales dropped to 750 in 1931, 300 in 1932, and averaged just 49 per year from 1935 through 1937. The GMC 702 Twin 6, too much engine. The GMC 702 cubic inch Twin 6 V12, produced from 1960 to 1966, was a monster. This 11.5-liter behemoth was essentially two 351 cubic inch V6 engines on a single block. The crankshaft alone weighed nearly 200 pounds. The complete engine tipped the scales at 1,485 pounds. The Twin 6 produced 275 horsepower at 2,400 RPM, but the real magic was torque, 630 pound-feet at just 1,600 RPM. It powered trucks grossing 120,000 pounds and industrial applications like irrigation pumps. So why did it fail? By the mid-60s, more compact and efficient engines were taking over. Only about 5,000 Twin 6s were built before GM replaced it with a smaller V8. The Twin 6 was simply too much engine for a changing market. The GMC Toraflow diesel, ambitious but troubled. The GMC Toroflow diesel, produced from 1959 to 1974, was GMC's attempt to offer a low-cost alternative to expensive Detroit diesel two-strokes. Available in 351, 478, and 637 cubic inch configurations, the Toroflow shared architecture with GMC's gasoline V6 engines to keep costs down. The Toroflow suffered from three major problems. First, the Bosch PSJ injection pump wore out rapidly. Second, head gasket failures were surprisingly common. Third, bottom-end failures plagued engines that were lugged or over-revved. GM even included a chapter on engine part failure analysis in the shop manual, tacit admission that failures were common. These 10 engines represent some of GM's most spectacular engineering gambles. They represent genuine attempts to push boundaries and create something new. The V864 concept now works brilliantly in modern engines. Turbocharging became standard across the industry. Aluminum engines are everywhere. Even the diesel concept that failed so miserably for GM became hugely successful for European manufacturers who engineered it properly. These engines remind us that failure often paves the way for future success, even if the companies that took the first risks paid dearly for their mistakes. So the next time you start your modern car with its reliable turbocharged engine, smooth cylinder deactivation, and efficient diesel option, remember the disasters that came before. These failed GM engines weren't just mistakes, they were expensive lessons that helped create the reliable vehicles we drive today.